So how can you detox from sin? Detox is a medical term which usually is referring to when you're removing unwanted or bad substances from your body. You could detox from like certain types of sugars, cleanse your body. A lot of times detox is referred to when someone's coming off of drugs, like alcohol is a good one where you really need to go through a process of detoxing, letting your body come off of this substance if you've been using it heavily for years. So that concept of detoxing is really very similar to what we need to do when we've been living in an addictive sin for a long period of time. If you're someone who's been struggling with a certain sin or a sin pattern for a lot of years, you have to prepare for that initial season of detoxing from that sin if you really want to change and stop. So how can you successfully detox? What do you need to know to go through this season? And how can you make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance to make it? Because the initial phase of stopping something or coming off of a drug or stopping an addictive behavior, that's like the part where most people fail, right at the beginning. The longer you stay sober or the longer you resist a certain sin, the more likely that you won't turn to it. I mean, obviously we always have to be on guard, but statistically, the closer you are to your last date of use, in a drug analogy, or the last date of that sin, the more susceptible you are to doing that sin or drug, to use that analogy again. So again, if you just are coming off of years of you looking at pornography or years of sinning in some sexual way or years of being in an unhealthy relationship that you keep going back to when you know you shouldn't, you're going to have this intense season of detox to really break free. So the first thing I would want to share with you is that you have to expect it to be painful. Pain is actually a part of the transformation process. When you're experiencing pain in that detox phase because you're no longer receiving that sin or substance that you used to rely on so much, that pain is actually the process of you changing. The pain is actually what is causing your body or your mind or your spiritual condition to go through that transformation process. So if you stop this certain thing that you want to stop, or you try to just start enhancing your walk with God and changing some old life patterns, when you start feeling pain, it'll be hard to do, but you have to actually be encouraged, because that actually means you're changing. That actually means that you're going to be different at the end of this road of pain. So pain is God's invitation to change. Sin wants to get its claws in you by releasing you of the pain. It wants to spare you of the transforming power that God uses in pain. So Satan's one of his favorite techniques, temptations, is not to cause you pain. It's to cause you to escape pain through sinful pleasure. That's what Satan wants to do. You're going to be in a season of trial and temptation and pain, and then Satan maybe isn't the cause of that pain. What he's going to come in and do is say, hey, I have an easy escape for you. Just look at porn. Just masturbate. Just call your ex that you know God doesn't want you to be with. Just use the drug. Just drink the alcohol. Then that pain will go away. But the problem is, obviously, the pain gets worse after we do that, and we never find the healing that we really need in God. So if you're constantly interrupting the process of change by running from the pain, you're never going to change. You have to allow that pain to run its course, because that's the detoxing phase. That's the phase of you putting distance between you and that thing that you don't want anymore. So when you remove those crutches that you've been using for years, it's gonna feel like you're losing a limb. Like, it's gonna feel like part of you is getting torn out, that like you are physically getting torn in two when you stop this certain thing that you used to do. But the second thing I want to tell you is that just know it gets better. And it gets worse before it gets better, is what I really want to say. When the pain will actually increase and increase and increase, and you'll feel like you're going to die, and then it'll break. It's kind of like having a fever. If you've ever had like a bad fever, that fever just gets worse and worse and worse, and then like you're sweating all night and it's just terrible. But it has to like run its course, and then eventually it breaks all of a sudden and it's gone. The fever's gone because it ran its course. And that's a lot what it's like to detox from sin. It's going to get worse. It's going to be really bad and get worse and worse and worse, and then it breaks, and then it gets a lot better. But if you never let it get so bad that it ends up breaking and your body starts going back to its natural levels, you're never gonna break free from that. It has to like get worse before it gets better, and usually people can't make it. They just like cop out halfway through, and they go for the quick pleasure and go right back to the beginning and need to detox again. The third thing I think would be helpful to know is that when you're trying to change something that you've been doing for a long time and you want to be different, when you stop doing that thing, you should prepare yourself for a lot of emotional instability. You should just like be aware that you're just going to feel crazy some days, you're going to feel great some days, you're going to feel just all kinds of emotions. You have to let that run its course too. You're going to be imbalanced for a while. That's like what's going on. Your body, for like a drug addiction, your body is finding its balance again. You gave it this substance for a long period of time, and then it created this chemical high, but you needed more substance to create a greater high because you were building up a tolerance. And so you wanted to keep this high feeling, so you need to keep adding the substance. Now you're removing the substance, therefore your body is like really crashing. It's not going to have that feeling at all. It's going to be like the extreme opposite, because it's going to have no stimulus, nothing stimulating those feelings that you want. So your body is trying to get back in balance. It's trying to find the natural order of like producing the right chemicals at the right time by itself without needing this, unnatural substance to create like this euphoric high that's not real. In the same way, sin is doing the same thing. When you stop sinning in a certain way and you start resisting that temptation, you're not going to have that crutch that you used to have. And your body's and your mind and your spiritual condition needs to adjust again and come back to its normal level, because the trigger of that sin, which causes the feelings that you once wanted, aren't going to be there. So now you're going to be all out of whack. But as you let yourself come back into balance, then you're going to naturally start feeling what you were supposed to be feeling without the sin. So when you're walking with Christ, you can have real joy. You don't have to have fake quick pleasures. So there's a lot more we could talk about, but perhaps the last thing to say is that you shouldn't detox alone. Like, you shouldn't do that. If you're detoxing from like a actual drug, you really shouldn't do it alone, because you could get in some serious health concerns. Like alcohol is a big one. Like, if you've been using alcohol for years and then you try to detox on your own, you could like die from that. So you need medical help for that. But that's not really what we're talking about in this video. What we're really talking about is like spiritual detoxing from sin. But that same principle applies. You shouldn't do this alone because, like I said, you're going to be in pain. You're going to be all over the place. You're going to be up and down. You need support. Just like someone who would be detoxing physically from an addiction, you need care and help to deal with this detoxing phase. So don't try to do this alone. You need to confide in somebody. Let them know what you're trying to do, that you're trying to break free from this thing that's bothering you so much and ruining your life. And they can help you extra in that beginning phase. Like, they're not going to be able to dedicate their life to helping you stay off of this thing. Like, that's going to be your responsibility. But people will be able to have a season of intensely helping you more than they normally will be able to. Well, there's a lot more we could talk about. I actually have an article on this topic which will give you some more information if you're interested in that. I'll leave it in the description below. I also have a couple ebooks that might be helpful to you that are about change, and one ebook specifically about sexual temptation and things like that. So I'll leave some links in the description below if you want to keep learning. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching, and God bless.